Hooty hoo! Hey guys, we are back with episode 23. I'm recording some of these ahead of time, but I'm starting to find a lot of great people to interview, and it's a really good look for people with disabilities, and I'm so happy this is kind of coming together. Um, you know, kind of finding what my passion is starting to become here, and it's turned into something that I didn't see coming, and that's great. And so I want to thank my good friend Joel, who we've become a lot closer and gotten to know each other, and we're just gonna support each other and be friends, and that's what matters, and we need to stick together. People in general, but especially people with disabilities. And this was a great, not only an interview, but just a great conversation between two people who never talked on the phone ever, but just kind of hit it off because of we come from the same side, or whatever you want to call it. We both know what it's like to feel the pressure of what life can do to you, and it was a really great interview, and I'm very thankful to have met him. And we're gonna stay friends after this and before this, and during, and all the other times. So yeah, please welcome my good buddy Joel.
Hello. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. It's Joel,
Good.
right?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, why don't you just tell people just a little about you? Because, I'm just meeting you for the first time.
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Joel Cooper. I was born with spina bifida myelomeningocele, which is like, when you're born, there's a hole in your back. Either there's a hole or there's a kind of a lump on the back that they would have to take out, and then it leaves the hole, and they sew it back up, and it kind of ruins your nerves. So I was born with that, and then um, as I got older, I got into weightlifting and started my personal training business that I have now called Lionhouse Fitness, to help people with spina bifida like myself and other disabilities.
Right. Okay, so it is something you're born with, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so what was some of the, I guess trials and tribulation? What were some of the problems you had, especially as a child, uh,
Uh,
overcoming it?
yeah. So one of the biggest ones was when I was younger, they weren't sure if I was going to walk because of the spina bifida. So for the longest time, they had trouble trying to get me to walk. They tried walkers, they tried leg braces, they tried everything. So I was kind of late with walking. And then one day, I got up and started walking around my living room coffee table when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
And so then, just from there on, they finally realized that they were wrong, that doctors were wrong, and I was able to walk.
Uh-huh.
So starting from there, that was one of the biggest ones. And then as I got older, kind of being different in school because of the spina bifida, and people not really understanding everything that's different about spina bifida.
Right.
I dealt with a lot of bullying and that sort of thing, and kind of being outcasted by everybody.
Right.
And
Uh,
then,
Before you go on to the next thing, sorry.
right.
Now, were you, I get it. Please, no, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but were you on
Uh-huh.
crutches? Were you in a wheelchair? Like what was the obvious imagery that made people look at you as you were different?
Yeah. So since I started walking, I've had to walk with leg braces because it's called a gait, like where your hip kind of goes back in and back out.
Pops out of
And
joint?
my calves they don't have muscles in my calves, so it kind of helps with that as well, and balance and that sort of thing. So I've just used leg braces.
Right. Okay. So yeah, you were in school being bullied. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought you were going somewhere else with it. I'm sorry. I just cut
Oh
you
no,
off,
it's
but
okay. And then
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and then once I started my personal training business, one of the biggest things was being taken seriously as a strength coach with spina bifida, because like I know normal people, like able-bodied people, when they might see a strength coach, they think of someone that's strong, not someone that would have this downfall like leg braces or weak muscles and that sort of thing. So once I started that, it was being taken seriously and trying to find the right people to work with, and whether they had spina bifida or not.
What were your first, like, what made you want to get into that?
Yeah, so I had a next door neighbor actually. In high school, I was wanting to take a personal training class, like where you lift weights and that sort of thing. It was like a fitness class that they offered. Um, and I wasn't sure if I was able to do it. I didn't feel confident enough because of the spina bifida, and I didn't feel like I would be able to keep up with everybody because they were all football players and athletes and that sort of thing.
Right.
But I knew my next door neighbor Sean was taking it at the time, so I asked him about it and was like, "Do you think it would be okay for me? Even though I have the spina bifida?" And he said, "You should try it, see what happens." So he ended up training me for it for about 4 months before I actually had to take the class. I ended up taking it for 2 years and ended up loving it, even though it was difficult and I wasn't able to keep up with everybody. So then once I finally graduated high school, I realized that once I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know that I wanted to help people in the way that my friend Sean had helped me, through weightlifting. And I kind of realized that I wanted to get certified in that and make a difference in people's lives through fitness and through health, no matter if they had a disability or if they didn't have a disability.
Right. Now, did you have a really stronger upper body core as far as like, because you kind of have to overcompensate a little
Yeah,
bit with your upper body?
yeah. So like my upper body was always really, a lot stronger than my lower body.
Right.
And like certain stuff I wasn't able to do, like squats and that sort of thing. I finally just have been able to do squats within like the past year.
How old are you now?
I'm 23.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. What what was your kind of your breakthrough when you really realized you could do it?
Uh, let's see. So I think the breakthrough when I finally realized was we had in the personal fitness class that I took, we ended up taking a trip to a mountain called Old Bragg Mountain. It's in Virginia, where I'm originally from.
Okay.
It ended up was supposed to be like a 8 hour trip fully, and it only took me 8 hours to get up one side of the mountain, which was kind of my downfall, but also like that breakthrough moment where I realized, I'm stronger than this, no matter how much I tell myself that I should stop and I shouldn't keep going and that sort of thing. Um, so the more I told myself that, the more I pushed myself up that mountain, and the more I realized that, I should be telling other people this sort of thing too, and kind of helping them if they're feeling the same way. So
Right.
then
Right.
that was kind of my breakthrough moment of starting my business, and then, going from there and kind of talking myself through it all.
No, yeah, that's awesome. Now, I mean, you talked about the bullying and all that, but how was your, the depression through, like, what was your darkest days as far as your mental health when it comes to this kind of stuff?
It was definitely more so when I was growing up, through middle school and early high school before I started the weight training and all. It was just kind of the being outcasted. I didn't have very many friends, and I kind of just lived through. I would play drums at the time, so I kind of lived through playing drums and just like whatever else I could find and being friends with anybody that I really could.
Uh-huh.
Um, and nobody really, there was no other disabled kids in that school, so it was just me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so it was hard to kind of find someone that really understood, the differences that I had and, everything else, and then me understand them. And then once I started my business, the more mentally bad days started then, just because not being taken seriously and kind of struggling to go, from one section to another with money and everything else. Just because
Right.
certain jobs wouldn't hire somebody with a disability and you need money to start a business.
Right. Because you're basically considered a liability,
Yeah, basically.
which is very unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've run into that many times. There's a part where there's kind of a point in there where you, at least, I'm speaking for me, but I'm sure same for you. Like, you get to a certain point where you kind of get addicted to proving people wrong,
yeah,
where
for
you,
sure.
and that's kind of what keeps you alive and what keeps driving. Because there is a huge party that's just like, I don't even want to deal with this shit anymore. Like, I'd rather just end it. And so,
Yeah,
all the worst thoughts go through your head, and you start to, go down the road of, why me, and whatever your religious beliefs or whatever.
yeah,
And then you kind of prove somebody wrong, whether it's the doctors, which was kind of probably your start, and then you get to a certain point where you're just telling people to fuck off, and you just, even if you're not, you know, verbally saying it, metaphorically, you're just saying it outwardly, and you're just pushing and pushing, and then you just kind of get to a point where you just get comfortable enough with who you are
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you know that's kind of your armor to basically life.
Yeah, and then you just keep winning in certain stuff and keep remembering all the
Yeah,
people that did certain things and that sort of thing.
right. And because I think a lot of us, with people who are disabled, you know, I'm legally blind, and like we run into so many hurdles, and sometimes like our accomplishments don't seem like that much to most people. It's like, oh, I got my own place or I got a job,
Yeah,
but they don't understand like what a job is like getting for us. Like it's a huge hassle.
yeah, and how difficult it is to, find the money to rent out a place and that sort of thing.
Right. And it's just everything. And, you know, there's so many times where you get told no,
Yeah,
whether it's the medical field where they tell you you can't walk again or you can't, you know, whatever, I can't see or I can't do this. You won't ever be able to live on your own or whatever it is. And then you get to a point where you just keep pushing past it. But there's so many hurdles get thrown in front of you. So it's like, even though like, yeah, I have my own place and I work and I do these things and, you know, you run your own programs and it's like, it's great. But to most people, it just seems like, well, yeah, but I got a house too, or it's like, yeah, but
yeah, or
again,
I
it's
got a better job and like,
yeah, and it's like you don't understand how much I have to push through all this shit, and you know, and if you collect disability, it's like even if you find a decent job, it's like, am I going to lose my disability?
yeah, exactly.
Uh, I mean, and if I do, is it worth losing? And you know, there's so many rabbit holes that you go down.
Hmm.
Um, especially with the work stuff. I think that's one. I think it's one of the, especially when it comes to disability. I mean, you could talk about transportation for some and certain things, but
Yeah,
work placement is probably the worst of all
for sure.
as far as egregious, like where we are in a society and what people with disability. Because I think, like I said, I'm speaking for me, but I'm pretty sure the same for you. Like you know what you can do, or you relatively know what you can do, but people try to tell you what you can't do,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's people with, you know, full working legs, or in my case full working, you know, sighted eyes, that are
Uh-huh.
trying to tell me what I can't see and what I can't grab and do in this. And it's like, let me fail, you know, like
Yeah, yeah,
if I
don't tell
fail,
me
then
I
I,
can
yeah,
fail.
right, let me fail, let me deal with that. I'll cry in the shower or whatever, like I'll deal with my problems, but don't tell me what I can't do, because your eyes work, so your system is built around what you guys can do. But I could probably prove you wrong if you really give me the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me sad because some of the best workers I've seen have had disabilities or some sort of disability
Absolutely.
because they just
Yeah.
want to, be accepted and prove those people wrong, like you said. So,
Right. I've worked with a guy who's completely blind, and I have like one okay working eye, and between the two of us, we can get a crap load of work done. And there's a certain point where, like, even recently, where we were working together, and I just was like, we're not even really communicating, but we know where we are at all times,
yeah,
and we're just. And I told him, like, I'd rather work with him or someone like him than anybody who, you know, quote unquote, is normal or whatever you want to call it,
yeah, because you
because
kind
they
of know each
understand.
other, like in that sort of perspective.
Right, and there's just this, and you know, and I think some people, and then I think another part is the problem is like when you actually do it, then people kind of start to downplay it.
Yeah,
It's like, well, yeah, that's good. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what you were saying in the beginning. Now it's, oh yeah, that's cool. And it's like, yeah, but you couldn't do it.
yeah,
You know, we had a couple bosses at work where they weren't going to let us pack these heavy military like shooting targets or whatever.
uh-huh.
And this is before I got there, but they wouldn't let any blind people do them because they couldn't do it blindfolded.
That's
So
ridiculous.
right, and it's beyond ridiculous because, but it's like what they don't understand is like psychologically you can pull that blindfold off and the light comes in and you're good.
Yeah,
And like the blind guy who ended up doing it and mastering it, it's like, you know, what are you doing? Like
yeah,
he showed them and he proved them wrong, but it took a while. Whereas like these people who have perfect sight put blindfolds on, it's like, nah, you can't do it. And it's like that's you mentally. You're built, you know, you're not built like us. Like
you have
we
to.
can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're so used to no that we have to try to, you know, push past it and just constantly prove ourselves right or wrong. And then sometimes we prove ourselves wrong,
yeah,
um, because like I know I can't drive,
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my, that's one of my no's that I know I have to stick with.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try everything else.
That was one of
Uh,
mine too for the longest time because when I drive, I can't move my ankle. So it was kind of getting used to the pressure of the pedals and everything. But
right. Yeah. And like I said, there's so many things that get thrown in front of you, and I think especially going back to what you were talking about in school, like we all have had these, like I had teachers that would say like, we want you to go to the prom even though you don't have a date or
mm-hmm.
whatever, and it's like, no, I don't want to do that, man, because that's even more depressing.
Yeah,
Like
because then people
it's
just wonder why you're there, look at you, and that sort of thing.
right, you're the freak show, and you're the person that can't get a date and so on, and then it's it's just, and then maybe somebody will feel bad for you, your teacher or somebody, and you're just like, look, psychologically, that's more damaging than actually just saying I didn't have a date and didn't go.
Yeah, when you could, stay at home and do something worth your time that would make you a little bit more excited and
Or at least distract you from all the psychological nonsense that you're going to put yourself through.
exactly, yeah.
Right. It's crazy because, like I said, we're on two different sides of the spectrum, but I've talked to different people with different disabilities and so on, and it's like, all in all, the reason why, like, there's other podcasts out there that, especially with eye stuff, they mainly stick in the category of eye stuff, but it's like they don't get it. Like you and me, deaf, whatever you are, we are we're the guy in the wheelchair logo.
Yeah.
Like that's what we are. No matter what our problem is, we are some sort of freak or some sort of thing to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I seen a guy on TV who had no legs and he was just climbing up, getting in his cabinets and pouring cereal and doing all these amazing things, but they made him like he was a freak show, even though it's like one of the most amazing things you'll ever see.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, how much we have to overcome. Sometimes, I mean, we never really get to a place where we're comfortable.
Yeah.
We're constantly, in a state of worry. And sorry, I feel like I'm
No,
hijacking your
you're good.
podcast.
And it's even like that for me too. Like when I notice when I go out with my girlfriend or something and we're going out shopping or like I go to the gym by myself or something, it's like no matter what, people kind of stare at you and then wonder like, oh, how the hell did you get out of your house today? Like, why are you out shopping? Why are you doing this? It's like I'm a normal person still. I got to live a normal life. It may be a little bit different,
Right.
but
Right. But it does help when you get things like that with a girlfriend or some friends or, was your family very supportive?
yeah, they were.
Mom and dad?
Yeah,
That's awesome. So that helps.
for sure.
But it also, it's also a kind of a thing, like her mom was very supportive, but she would just be like, it's going to be okay, Mom. And it's like, she means well, she's great, but it's like, it's hard when people are bullying you and making fun of you and doing all these terrible things. Even though, the love system is, the support system is there and it's great. Without it, you may have not survived.
Yeah.
But it's also you look at it like, oh, it's my mom and dad. Like they're gonna say I'm handsome or I'm whatever just because they love me.
That's kind of how my mom was too. She was like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. Like, don't listen to them," sort of thing. My dad was like, "Find a way to overcome it and make yourself better than them.
Right.
Like, don't
That's
fight
good.
with them and that sort of thing. Find a way to make yourself better."
I think it's really good, especially for the dad, because there's so many quote unquote, especially even for what you do, but manly men that try to, they want their son, whether they don't want him to be gay, they don't want him to have any sort of condition or anything that draws a little attention, and it's more to them than it is to their actual son.
Yeah.
And I think especially for a boy, it's great to have a good father figure in your life to kind of show you and guide you on, because your mom can only do so much.
Yeah.
And when a father is accepting of those things, then it makes it a lot easier to kind of indulge into life.
Yeah, you kind of accept a little bit more understanding.
Right. So what kind of, like, what's your daily routine as far as like, how do you, when you get up, like how do you, basically live your life with your condition?
So when I get up, I usually get up about 6 or 6:30. I make my coffee and I start doing my work, whether it's making a program for somebody or making a program for my website that I can sell to a whole bunch of other people. I spend about like 2 or 3 hours a day just kind of working on that and answering emails. Sometimes I make YouTube videos or update my website. So I'll do that. And then after that, I'll do some stretching because with my condition, my muscles get achy very easily, so I'll have to take that extra time to kind of move myself around a little bit more, and then get in
Right.
a workout if I can, whether it's strength training or something like yoga or just like a high intensity interval training workout. Um,
Right.
and then after that, I like to do a lot of reading, so I'll do a lot of reading just to kind of calm myself down after exercise. And then
Wow.
I'll either do the reading or I'll do like a meal prep for the week if it's on like a Sunday or Monday. And then
Wow.
anything else I have to do, whether it's like grocery shopping or going out or seeing people, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's pretty
Does
much
your
different every day.
right. Does your girlfriend have any kind of condition?
No, she's able-bodied. She's,
She's just very accepting of what you go
yeah.
through. Yeah, that's important.
I think that was one of the biggest things about our relationship was me kind of worrying if she would accept it or not, but she's been really accepting, which is good.
That's what you need, and that gives you confidence in yourself, because even if you're not feeling attractive or whatever, you can go through life knowing, like, even if people are looking at you like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, you can live in this kind of like love bubble, if you want to call it. Like, you can just be like, I'm happy. This person accepts me for who I am. Like, fuck the rest of you.
Exactly. And like being, since she's with me, most of the day, almost every day, she kind of understands spina bifida a little bit more because she sees what I go through and is able to help in certain ways, even if she doesn't have spina bifida or quite understand everything about it. So
Right.
that it makes it a lot easier as well.
And those are the people that give you hope about people.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had many days where you're just like, I hate everyone.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, and still, um, and I try not to, because it's like there's a reason why I'm alive. A lot of my friends and family have kept me alive just being around, and it sometimes you go on these tirades, or you just go through this warmth of your brain functioning in the negative direction, where you're just like, oh, people just are horrible, and some are, a lot are, but there are also a lot of people out there who genuinely care, um, and actually are accepting.
Yeah, I see a
Um,
lot of that too. Most of like the time when I feel like that is when I go on social media and I see like people arguing with each other and like bullying each other
oh,
and like, oh, this person's used as like a piece of entertainment because of their disability and that sort of thing.
you'll see people talking shit to like UFC fighters. It's like, dude, whatever. Yeah, there's so many ballsy people online.
uh,
Um, that's why I'm like a phone person or in-person person, because I hate this. Again, there's nothing wrong with social media. There's nothing wrong. I mean, there's plenty of things, but
uh-huh.
it's okay with using it. And, they are good tools to help you promote and other things and connect with people. But overall, it's just giving people a platform to just pretend who they are. Because back in the day, it was like, I'm 9 years older than you, but like at one point there was like AOL chat, and
Uh-huh.
like the one thing you had to worry about was like people were either lying about their gender, which they would, because there was no pictures, you were just talking, or they would tell you like, I'm 18 and they were 15, or basically just lying about their age or their gender just so they can flirt with somebody, and they'd go in like lesbian chat and pretend they were a girl, and it's just
Yeah.
like shit like that. But now there's so much other things. I mean, it's going rampant, and now people they try to bully people who are unbullyable,
Uh-huh.
but they do, they just make fun, like, oh, your album sucks, or your whatever, and it's like, dude, like, why don't you just go get a
Yeah, go do
life?
something with yourself.
Seriously. I mean, we all get mad at certain people, that we don't know and whatever, but I just go, okay, but like these, you usually see it on, like, you can see the most popular video, like a guy coming back from Iraq to hug his son, and there'll be one dislike. It's like, look, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
Like,
you got that person that's like, screw you, I hate the Iraq war, and I hate this person and that person. It's like, all right. It was just a
or I don't have
video.
a dad. It's like, right, or somebody petting a cat, and it's like, oh,
I hate
gross.
cats.
It's like, whatever. Right, boo, go dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad, and that's why you get to a certain point in your life, especially now, like, you're starting to become, even though I'm sure you have your insecurities, but you're getting more comfortable in your skin. You're just realizing, like, no matter where you are, you're gonna have problems, but
Yeah.
you just gotta,
And I think a lot
yeah,
of like what helped with that is kind of putting myself out there more with, my personal training and everything. It kind of, I guess, thickened my skin a little bit to what people say and like the way people with disabilities are viewed. Like it still, it still sucks sometimes, but it really helped a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, I think stuff like this, I'm not saying it because I'm doing it, but like stuff like this helps. Like just two people talking who just are getting to know each other, and though their lives were different, they still in some ways were similar, and you can kind of realize like it's nice. Like the reason why I do this is just because, like I said, I started off by just doing like I had like 12
Uh-huh.
ideas, and now I'm on episode 20 and I have like 30 more ideas,
Damn.
and now like interviews like this, and just these things keep coming up. Even when you commented on the that post I put, like I just put that there, and then I woke up and I had like 20 requests, and I'm like, I didn't even think anyone gave a
Yeah.
shit. And it's so nice to just like want people to tell their stories because it's like it's to help people not only feel like they're not alone, but so they just to keep them alive.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so easy to give up.
Yeah, and I think what
like
you're doing really does help a lot, like you said, with people in that sort of situation. Because not many people with disabilities get that kind of outlet.
right, especially for all disabilities, because most people just kind of stay in their realm, and that's fine. But like I said, the only way we're going to make real change is if we all band together and change the issues that affect every one of
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Because, like I said, we are that logo, regardless if we want to be, regardless if we signed up for it. We are that logo, no matter what our problems are, even if you're not in a
Yep.
wheelchair.
And even if you're doing something, that a normal person would, quote unquote normal, then you're still seen as the logo somehow.
Right. Now, have people, and I've gotten this, have people, because people are very uneducated and very ignorant to a lot of things, have people try to treat you like you have some sort of special
Yeah,
needs?
they like, no offense to, people with any sort of mental
Right. No,
handicap
no.
or anything, but they often associate spina bifida with that sort of thing because there are some people that have that. So like when they'll talk to me a little bit differently or like slower or something, and I'm like, I can talk to you perfectly fine.
Right.
Or
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like in school they would make me sit kind of far away from everybody else, kind of closer to the front of the class and that sort of thing. And I was like, I don't
Right.
really get that, but
Have you ever had the people that put their hand out and just say like, "Here, I'll walk you over somewhere"?
yeah, like, oh, here, I'll help you. Or like I've had people come up to like the store, like in the store, and they're like, oh, I'll pray for you. And I'm like, you know, I like
Yeah.
religion and everything, but
Yeah.
you can't pray away spina bifida.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can. Yeah. That's funny you say that because one of the miracles in the Bible is that he cured blindness, and so people throw that at me. It's like maybe, and again, I can see a little bit in my
Uh-huh.
one eye, and I function and whatever, but I'm basically blind in my left eye. But it's like, well, remember that happened. It's like, yeah, okay, you can look. I get it, but some of that stuff is also
Yeah.
metaphorical, and it's not happening. And I'm going to try to get other surgeries and try to see what can happen. But if you just think I'm going to pray tonight and I'm wake up, my eyes are going to be perfect, it's not going to happen. So don't try to guilt me
I
into
know
it.
people have been doing it to me for 20 years and I still haven't gotten rid of it. So I'm
Yeah,
waiting for the
yeah,
day.
I know, and sometimes I feel like the more prayers, the worse
I
it
know.
gets. So, uh,
Yeah. That's funny.
Is there any kind of like misconceptions or any things that people think about spina bifida that aren't correct, or anything you want to educate people on spina bifida?
Actually, yeah, there are a lot because a lot of people, they think, going back to the physical disability thing, a lot of them think that spina bifida is just, walking with crutches or walking with leg braces and that sort of thing. But there are different kinds of spina bifida. Like, there's one that my
Uh-huh.
friend Anthony has. It's called spina bifida occulta, where you can't see anything wrong at all. Like, he walks like a normal person, he talks like a normal person, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of the kind of inner complications that people with spina bifida would have that he has, and nobody really knew about it until he got older, and he finally went to a doctor and they diagnosed him with it. So there's
What was his
uh
problem? Like what made him go to the doctor to find out if he had it or whatever? How did he get, like, if he could walk normal?
so like
What was it that
I
triggered it?
guess like he could walk normal-ish, but like you start losing your leg muscles, like muscles in your legs, and you start losing some bladder and bowel control and that sort of thing. So I think a lot of it was just like certain issues like that, and then there's something that we get called a tethered cord, which is where your spinal cord kind of wraps up and it messes with your nerves and can be fatal. And that ended up happening to him. So I think that was another thing that finally made them realize, hey, you know, he has spina bifida. He needs to start taking these precautions for himself.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, someone just called me, so I hope I didn't cut that off. Um, but
Oh, no, you're good.
just repeat that one thing just in case. As far as I heard, when the spinal cord wraps around and then it cut off.
Yeah, so like we get tethered cords. Not everybody with spina bifida gets it, but some of us do. It's where your spinal cord kind of wraps up and it messes up the nerves in your body and causes a whole bunch of other complications. And he ended up getting that, and so doctors finally realized, you know, he needs to take those extra precautions for himself because he does have spina bifida, like they thought he did. So, you know, there's all kinds of different kinds of spina bifida, and they all affect people differently, which is, you know, one of the biggest misconceptions is people think that it's just one way or no way at all, and or they think, you know, you might have cerebral palsy when it ends up being spina bifida or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, like, especially when it comes to some of these diseases, they all be beyond just the logo we talked about. You know, like with mine, it's more like if you don't have a CNI dog or glasses or a cane, like, right. It's
Then
like,
you're
well, you're
not
not
blind.
visually impaired or blind. You don't look it. It's like, again, you don't know what it looks like. You just look at, you know, what you see on TV or on the internet or whatever.
Yeah, you've seen other people like that, and so you
Right. And some people
assume.
wear it well. Some people aren't just with my hand out going, hey, I'm blind, help me. Or, hey, you know, whatever your condition is.
Yeah,
And that's, like I said, I think we all have these little, you know, stereotypes. And again, a lot of stereotypes are true too, but, you know, sometimes they get attached to us. And it's like, even though we
for
don't,
sure.
you know, literally have them. Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's nice to learn about stuff like this because, like I said, it's, you know, just because you don't have it or, you know, I think, like I said, we get to too much in our own heads and we stay to what we know and we don't ever try to learn. And I think beyond just the disability thing, whatever, uh, whether it's politics or whatever, like it's good to learn just a little bit every day and just try to get to know new things. And, you know, from someone who's been through a lot of shit and nearly died and all that, it's, you know, it's like, why not want to give back? Like, especially if you're in a place where you
Yeah.
mentally you can do it, do it. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
fight for more than just yourself after a while.
I agree. That's kind of the philosophy I've had since I've started my business and everything. Kind of always like remaining a student and trying to help people and not just helping yourself completely and
Now, do you
everything.
directly train with some people?
Yeah, I when I lived in Virginia, it was, you know, being 20 minutes away from DC, I kind of always went to DC and would train there because there's a high disability population there. So when I lived in Virginia, it was a lot of more physical, in-person training. But since I've moved to South Carolina, where I live now, and since COVID started, it's been more directed online, or like over like Skype and Zoom and
Right,
that sort
right.
of thing.
What was it like the first time you started training somebody? Were they like shocked?
Yeah, it was my first client was actually a normal, able-bodied person, so it was extremely nerve-wracking because I wasn't sure how they would react to having a trainer with a physical disability. But they ended up taking it really well, and I've worked with them since. It's been about 2 or 3 years.
Oh, that's
So
cool. And it's got to motivate them, like in a way where, because I mean,
yeah,
I
for
always
sure.
tell people, even and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm like, look, let it motivate you. Like I'm someone who's had all this happen, like like you've been through all this shit, and it's like, yeah, like you don't have any of these excuses. I have to push past so many other things, but use my life to motivate you to like what could be this bad, but it's not.
For sure. Like my biggest thing with my clients is like, for example, like I've had 24 surgeries in my life, 22 surgeries,
Wow.
something like that. And, you know, my clients will come to me and they'll be like, oh, I've had this, so I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm like, have you tried it yet? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, try it and then tell me you
Right.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, don't sit there and, kind of feel negative about yourself and say you can't do something without really trying it first just because someone else told you you couldn't do it, or, you keep telling yourself you can't do it and you haven't tried it
Right.
yet.
They're talking to a person who's a perfect example of a person who has been told who can't do it. So, why not? Like, I mean, really, even get just whatever the exercises or whatever. It's like, dude, just lift your leg up, something, because it's like you're talking to a guy who, you know, most people would say he can't do that. So have a
For
little respect
sure.
and just try it. If you want to just pussy out and just say, my back hurts or whatever, then do it. But at least try.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the biggest thing too is like when they'll try something and they expect it to be a certain way by, a certain time limit. And so when they don't reach that period, they end up quitting and feeling bad. But it's like, no, you have to take smaller steps to get there, especially if you have something wrong with you physically and that sort of thing. You need to take those extra steps to help yourself to get to where you want to be, not just jumping from one spot to another, because that's not how it's going to work.
Absolutely. So you said earlier about like you had a friend, but like, have you been able to meet other people with the same condition?
Yeah, I've met a lot of people actually since I've started. Just a lot of um, not only clients, but people that I've kind of supported and kind of supported me, kind of backing each other up that have spina bifida as well. Um, so it's been really great. But I've also met people that don't have spina bifida um, with other disabilities, which I never thought would be possible until I started all this. Just because when I was younger, social media
Right.
wasn't as big. So it's kind of great now to see kind of the impact that everybody has on each other and kind of the group that everybody has around each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's just, yeah, that's the thing. And another thing is like when you look at the news or social media, like it makes you think certain ways, and then you really have to. It's good to find other communities like that. Um, you can get a
For
lot
sure.
closer, and like I said, there's so many people that really do understand, and you just got to find them. But there's so much bullshit in the middle to get to those people.
Yeah,
So much
absolutely.
misinformation, and like I didn't, I'll do an intro before I do this, just saying a couple of things about you and whatever. But like I didn't even go in this. Like I knew someone who had it, and knew a couple of people, but I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do. So it's like I'd rather just educate
Hmm.
people through you and just say fuck it, because it's like I said, it's okay to sit back and say you don't know something, and it's like just learn
Yeah,
and
instead of like lying about it and that
yeah.
sort of thing.
The thing that makes me laugh is like it seems like every person with a different disability has a term for someone, like you said, able body. Like in the visually impaired community, we
Uh
call
huh.
them sighted people. So like
Uh
it's
huh.
funny to hear people with different terms for people that really don't have any problems, and then you start to feel bad. It's like, oh, these poor people, they have so many names.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. Like I said, I just wanted to shoot the shit and just get to know you. Trying to think. Like I said, is there anything you wanna? I don't. You could talk about anything, honestly. Like I said, I'm genuinely just enjoying getting to know you. So, um,
Sure. Actually, I did want to know a little bit more about what you have as well.
um, yeah. I had this disease called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. It's a high allergic reaction to medication. So when I was a
Uh huh.
kid, I had a really bad ear infection, and they gave me amoxicillin, and then they gave me vancomycin once they found that I was allergic to amoxicillin. And I was taking those
Uh huh.
over a week or two span, and all my skin started burning off, my hair fell out, teeth fell out, hole in
Oh
my
wow.
mouth, nails and everything I was melting essentially. Um, and then the eyes go, the skin and everything else goes first, and then I mean, or maybe in in succession, they all kind of go together. But um, they were basically telling me it wasn't that big of a deal, and then once everything started to melt, basically, it was like, oh, we better get you over to somewhere where they have a burn center, where they have burn victims. And the town that
Yeah.
I lived in did not have one, so I had to go to a major city where I ended up going to Philadelphia. And,
Uh huh.
I was in this, hospital where now I have no skin. and like everything hurts extremely to the point where it's just because you become numb to it, and they wrap you up in these bandages. But before they press bacitracin, which is like a higher quality of Neosporin, like a much stronger Neospor, and it's to
Yeah.
heal the wounds. And then the bandages are wrapped around it, but they change the bandages like a couple times a day because you're gonna bleed through them, and it's all kind of bacteria and shit gets in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in it 4.5 months, but I don't know how many eye surgeries, and I've had surgeries on just like taking cells from my mom's eye, cells from a dead person's eye. But I mean, for a while, like my whole body was shut down, and like I had to get a feeding tube in me, like they had to take my gallbladder out, and
Damn.
so many other parts. I was basically a donor. I was an organ donor before I knew what an organ donor was, and they didn't go anywhere.
Jeez.
So yeah, I was 4.5, and I mean that's kind of the gist of it. But like I said, yeah, I'm legally blind. It's my left eye is basically colors and motions, and my right eye, like I said, I don't know how to explain it. I can see to get around. I get to work. I have
Uh-huh.
my own place, and I do my thing. I do what most people say I can't do, and kind of thrive.
That's great
Yeah,
though.
and it's like I said. I mean, my journey is battling mental health and so many other problems and abuse and so many other things. But the core base was just this eye thing. And again, it sucks because I basically had my whole childhood ripped from me because I was really big into cars. And like I
Hmm.
was like 4, but I knew like every car based on the emblem or the model or whatever. And then it got to a point where it's like, well, I'm never going to be able to drive one of them, so fuck cars. Um,
Yeah. Jeez.
right. And so it's like, like I said, you got to try to wear all this shit. And it's kind of fun doing the podcast. Like every other episode, I do an interview. I try to like let something breathe in the middle, and I get some of my stuff off my chest or whatever. And like this
Yeah.
past week, I just did all the dad stuff, the father figure stuff, and how I kind of became a man and got to where I'm at. But I like to just do all these other interviews, and it's just fun to share it and get it out there because I don't like. I've always said that I think that the disabled is the bottom of the barrel. You know,
For
yes, there's
sure.
racism, yes, there's sexism and homophobia and all these things, but you can be all those things and be disabled. And when you go down the line, it's like, well, you're black and a woman. We may or may not hire that. Oh, you're disabled. There's no way in hell I'm hiring you. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the final nail in the coffin. And it's like I said, it doesn't mean these other things don't exist, but we really are. There's really nothing for us out there. We have to make it happen.
Yeah. Or you look at like politics or something and you never get mentioned and
Right.
they don't ask you to vote, that sort of
Right. Or
thing.
they try to guilt you in by saying like, "Hey, the Republicans or the Democrats are planning on getting rid of Social Security. You better vote." It's like,
Yeah.
man, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always the same thing over and over again though.
right. It is, and you don't get included in anything. And then
Yeah.
I did an episode or part of an episode just on Social Security alone because people just
Uh-huh.
think it's this like end all be all for us. It's like, well, if you get laid off your job, at least you have that. It's like, yeah, but that pays my rent. That doesn't put food.
Yeah, what about food and
That
everything
doesn't feed
else?
my cat, or that doesn't, take care of the things I need taken care of. So it's so frustrating because it's just this ignorance of what people think we are, what we can do, and what we are allowed to do, and all. It's like, man, like, me and my friend Paul always had this slogan of just fuck limitations. And
Uh-huh.
yes, there are some things we can't do, but we're going to try to find a way around it. And that's just what it's about. Just keep pushing and keep, jumping over the hurdles and or moving them out the way. Because, like I said, you just get to a point where everyone just tells you what you can't do, and you're just like, you either jump to one side where you say, well, I guess I can't do it, or you
Yeah.
grab yourself and you pull yourself up and you just say, well, let's take a swing at it.
That's what I always try to tell people too, is like at some point you have to realize that it's only you that has yourself in those sort of situations. Like even if other people are helping, it's either you that drags yourself into kind of that victim mentality or over that victim mentality and kind of pushing yourself above everything else that you might have went through or that might have happened to you and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, do you still have your days where you just kind of like you don't want to get out of bed or you just don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, like I have a lot of days where maybe I'll wake up not feeling the best physically, and I notice that kind of drags you down mentally as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Like if I'm not able to be on top of my exercise and that sort of thing, I notice that's when it happens most.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it really is a daily challenge.
For
And
sure.
and there's days when I wake up and I'm happy and I actually question it. Like, what are you so
Hmm.
happy for?
Yeah, like nothing happened. Why? What's the big
Right.
deal?
It's almost like the thing where like if you get in an argument with your mom or whoever, someone you care about, and you're like, I'm gonna be pissed at them for a month and we're not talking, and then you see them the next morning and she's just like, hey son, and you're like, God damn it, I'm supposed to be mad at you.
Yeah. Now look, we're
Now
talking
we're talking
again.
again and
Thanks,
I
man.
can't be mad at you. And that's kind of how it is. Like you just wake up and you're just like, yay, and you're like, yesterday I was feeling like, ugh, like throw me out of a window. Now I'm
Yeah,
like, life isn't so bad. And
for sure.
it
It's like a big love-hate relationship with
right
yourself.
with yourself and with just humankind and then with everything. It's this constant circle and this, you go back and forth with everything. And you almost feel like you're bipolar.
Yep.
And it's just all the damage and the wear and tear like that you go through. And that's why it's so good to do these type of things of just talking to other people because there's times where you just realize like, wow, like there was the time where I realized I was molested in school and I was just like, I was sitting on the steps and I was like in my house and it was like 20 some years old. And I'm like, I just
Uh-huh.
said it out loud. I'm like, holy shit, I was molested. I'm like, but it didn't really affect me. And I almost giggled.
Yeah, it doesn't dawn on you until you really think about
Right. I
it.
was like, so much bad shit happened to me that I pushed that away. And that, like, especially with women, that would ruin most people's lives. Like, that would affect them to this day. And it doesn't have really much effect on me at all. And it's like, and that's where I kind of get to a realization where it's kind of sad where you're just like, man, like, how damaged am I? Like,
Yeah, it's either you're damaged or somehow you've overcome it and you don't know what it is.
right. And I'm very honest. Like, I'm very open about being, somewhat broken or whatever. But it's like, and I also let people know when I
Yeah,
do like mental health episodes, I'm like, look, by no means have I escaped this. Like, I
yeah,
may be strong and I may be still standing, but any day something can happen. And who knows what your breaking point is? We all have one, whether we want to admit it or not.
yeah, for sure.
Um, and it's like, and I don't want to find out, but, like I said, we all still question everything. And like I said,
Absolutely.
it's like I said, life is very challenging for some of us. We all have challenges, but
Yeah, and I feel like again, able-bodied people don't really understand it, or they think a lot of the time we might just be over dramatic with what we go through and that sort of thing, or somehow we're faking it and all that. They don't really realize that a lot of it is mental health, and that even though a lot of it's also physical,
right.
the biggest part of it is how you deal with it mentally.
I don't know about you, but to me, the mental stuff is the worst. Like the physical stuff sucks
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I mean, I can say that for me because I know your physicalness is a lot worse than mine in a sense. But I
hmm,
still have plenty of body aches, and my skin's still very sensitive to everything that happened. But it's like I can endure pain pretty well. It's the
yeah,
medical or the mindfulness of just trying to get out of bed and just tell yourself you look good or tell yourself that you're worth anything. Um, that just the psychologicalness that just beats you to the ground where you're just like, I don't really want to do anything today.
yeah, absolutely. Like for the past year and a half now, I've been dealing with a pressure ulcer that I have in my foot because of an old pair of leg braces. It like went all the way down to the muscle in my heel. And so like I haven't been able to really exercise as much as I could, and some days I wake up and I'm just like, I feel like garbage, like not physically, but like it doesn't feel the same as I did a year ago, and like I don't know what to do or where to go from here.
Right.
So it gets difficult.
But in the same token, it's also humbling. Like it makes you get back to where you're like, all right, that's right. Like, because there's sometimes I don't know about you, but I've had days where I'm like, I kind of forget about my condition, and I kind of
Hmm.
just like I'm watching a movie or I'm doing something, and then I realize like I can't see on the left side of my face, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's right, you're that, and it
Yeah.
kind of humbles
No,
you.
that's how it is for me too.
Yeah, it humbles you to the point where you just like you'll never. It's in a good way. I mean, it's bad too, but it's also good. It makes you never forget where you came from. Because I've seen people have conditions and they kind of forget where they came from, whether it's money or something comes into play. Like I've seen visually impaired people make fun of blind people, and it's like, what in the fuck gives you the right to do that? Like you're not.
Yeah, I've seen people with spina bifida do the same thing, and I'm like, do you not realize like we're supposed to be helping each other and
Right.
understanding each other?
And karma's a bitch, like,
Yeah.
because maybe like with your friend who, on the outside, maybe he can walk a little better than what you could do, but at some point it gets to one maybe where he's going to be more like you. And I'm not saying he was making fun of you, but like in that case, like if he were to make fun of you, it's like, yeah, but eventually it all comes back around and something is just going to make you feel shitty for everything you said and done. And,
Yeah.
we all
It's like either way, you still have spina bifida. We're still kind of in the same boat.
right. It's just a way of saying like, see, I'm better than somebody just because I'm down here.
Yeah.
I'm a smidge above that guy over there. And it's like, how?
And I do notice that a lot within the spina bifida community is like, there will be people in wheelchairs and stuff. And it's like, well, at least I can walk and like, I don't look like this or I don't do that. I'm like, but why don't you be more sympathetic to their situation and help them feel better about themselves? Because I'm sure they don't feel good about it, but you're not any better than them because you can walk.
I'd way rather be around people who are quote unquote ugly on the outside and beautiful on the inside, if you want to say, than the reverse, because there's too many people out here that are just cold hearted. It's just like, well, that ain't me, and it's like, yeah, that's not. Be thankful that it's not. But that doesn't mean you need to treat us any different.
For sure.
And then I think sometimes people like I my grandma sometimes she'll listen to the podcast. She goes, you're profanity, and I'm like, Grandma, I don't curse all the time, but it's like some of the things that we're saying, like they really mean a lot to me, and it's my way of showing that I'm very passionate about it because it comes from a lot of pain. And it's like in order for us to say certain things, it's not easy to, I say all these things, like I just talked about being molested, and I say it like it's nothing. But in reality, there's somewhere deep down that does hurt. And, we just kind of push these things away and we just pretend like they're nothing. It's like, dude, I'm sharing my entire life for people.
Yeah, so then when you say it, it's a little bit more passionate, a little bit more
and
vulgar as someone else might want.
Right, and that's just what we are. We're a little rough around the edges, but like if you really get to know us and actually accept us, like we're probably the most loving, mushy people. But we have, we're like the porcupine. Like we have our quills out, but it's just because everyone wants to kick us. So in order for us to stop you from kicking us, we have to put our quills out.
And that's what I've kind of said about my message throughout the years is like, I guess growing up with spina bifida, I've kind of had to grow that hard outer shell and kind of be like a hard ass and that sort of thing. And like, sometimes I cuss a lot, like with you through my YouTube videos and stuff, or if I'm explaining something, but it's like, if that's not your thing, that's fine,
Right.
Go look at somebody else or talk to somebody else, but this is how I'm going to explain it. And maybe you can still get, the message I'm trying to prove.
Right. Excuse me.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You have to protect yourself more than anything. The world is very cold to anyone, but especially when you're, some people can hide certain things. You can hide sexuality or certain things, whether you should or shouldn't. It still sucks, but we can't hide what we have. And it's just people are gonna just anything that's a little different. I've tried to go out of my way sometimes, not to brag or anything, but like I'll see somebody in a wheelchair and she's a girl, like I'll try to just be nice to her and let her know that she's pretty or whatever, just because it's like any little thing can help keep someone alive.
Yeah, and people don't realize that.
Right.
Like even just saying hi, like to someone that's having a bad day or something, you could have just made their whole week or their whole month because that may not have happened to them.
Right. And it's not even when I say keep them alive, and I've said this many times, like it's also keep, like if they have a sickness, let's say they have cancer, well, the first step is to want to fight it. And if you don't want to fight it, your body's just going to go with it in most cases.
Yeah.
And so you have to want to go through these things, and you have to want to fight. Like I said, if I didn't have my family and my friends and all the things all the people have come through my life and have impacted me, I'd be dead. Whether it's putting a bullet in my head or it's just my body shutting down, one way or another, I wouldn't be around.
You'd still be dead. Yeah.
And that's why I constantly, whether I interview them or I I'll thank them in an episode or say certain things. Like it's because they are the only, they're like the heartbeat that keeps me moving. And I have to give back every chance I can, not just to the disabilities, but to the people that have gotten me here.
Yeah.
And, again, I take credit too. Like, obviously I am who I am, but, you have to constantly give love and respect to the people that just helped you along the way. Even if it's just one person one day said something nice to you, it's like, man, you got me through a week.
Yeah, you don't realize what you did and how big of an impact it was.
Right. And I did a depression episode where I said, like, you don't understand, like, there was days where I was walking around Philly just so depressed and, just not having any self-worth. And I started to do these little exercises to help with my social anxiety by just going up to people and saying, like, hey, how you doing? And even if they don't say anything back, it was just for me to work on my anxiety. And there were people that were just super rude. And there was just times where I just like, you start thinking these awful things about them or yourself.
Uh-huh.
And you just like, man, like, I just want to throw myself in the middle of the street. The street's right there. I should just do it. No one's going to give a shit.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Like, you don't, and again, sometimes we bump into people who are having a bad day themselves. Maybe their mom died or something. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But there are just a lot of assholes out here who just don't have any common sense or any care in the world for anyone but themselves or the person with them.
Yeah, life revolves around them and them only.
Right. And it's just those things. And it's so unfortunate because like I said, there are so many people right now that are walking on a tightrope and are ready to fall off. And they're just waiting for one person to just kind of grab their hand. But it's a lot of times it doesn't happen. And there's a lot of people killing themselves, especially now. I mean, look at the crazy year that we're in.
Yeah.
Suicide, I believe, is up, and it's unfortunate. And, we don't address a lot of these things, especially mental health. We don't address it in the way we want to. We only talk about it when somebody shoots up a school or
Yeah,
something.
or someone kills himself or
Right.
that sort of thing.
My grandma is very adamant. She argues with me. She's like, I don't have any form of mental health. Absolutely, you do. You grew up in the Great Depression, and you have all these. She has plenty of issues, and she's a great woman. But we
Uh-huh.
all have some form of depression. We have all some form of anxiety or some sort of mental health, one way or another.
Yeah.
And you just have to come to terms with it.
Yeah. Instead of pushing it away or not accepting it, that sort of thing.
Right. It's it's like I said, it sucks, man. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say, man? Like I said, you said you didn't have many friends. You got a friend here. Like I said, you can come on anytime and
Thank you.
we will talk anytime you want. Like I said, your number's in my phone. I'm not deleting it just because you gave me, a podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, like I said, I just wanted to share your story. And like I said, I didn't even know you. I barely knew anything about you. And I'm just happy we did this because it turned out really good.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great being on here.
Yeah, like I said, I'll let you know. I have a few more coming out, but you're probably going to be, I'm on 20, so you'll probably be about 25. But trust me, I will let you know when it's coming out. It'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
And yeah, like I said, I'll text you when we get off here. And like I said, even if you want to talk some more, just off record or whatever, I don't give a shit. But yeah, like I said, I'm happy we did this. And like I said, man, you ever need anyone to talk to, I'm around.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Same goes to you.
All right, brother. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on. You still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your website? You said you had a website.
Yeah, it's lionhousefitness.com. And then you can find me on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook at Lionhouse Fitness as well.
Okay, send me that in the text message, and when I put the episode up, I'll put it in the link.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
All right,
I'll do
all
that.
right, brother. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.